Hi everyone, my name is Joseph, and today I wanted to discuss Digimon Liberator just in general. So as a quick reminder, unfortunately, with the release schedule for Liberator, unlike Seekers, it's not going to be weekly, but rather the novel is going to be updated every month. As for the comic portion, typically it is updated every 2 weeks, bi-weekly, or is that bi-weekly? Excuse me, every 2 weeks. I'm gonna take it back to bi-weekly because I believe that means no, I think that is every 2 weeks. Excuse me. So, anywho, but continuing forward, um, despite that though, having a schedule or a more stable release schedule, there's a couple of weeks where it's going to take a bit longer than 2 weeks for the new chapter to release. Like for example, this week's chapter. So no new chapter for both the comic or the novel portion as released. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just do a general video. I guess kind of consider these to be like the catching up episodes when you guys watch TV shows where they do flashbacks or previous episodes. Some shows they use that as an opportunity to do have some new material, but about 80%, 70% of the show is devoted to flashbacks and everything like that. So so as I already stated in my last Digimon Liberator discussion video, I am starting to notice, or at least I hope this is true, there seems to be a shift starting to occur. So the start of the story, I would argue that so far there's been really no big major push forward in terms of the narrative. We've only gotten a lot of characterization, and I think that's starting to shift because, correct me if I'm wrong, but besides for a couple of minor characters such as Zenith and that one girl with the silver hair, I believe it's silver, the one from the first episode of the comic portion that Shoto came across. We haven't really delved much into their backstories, or not even the backstories, excuse me, but just into their characterization generally. But I'm sure that's going to be filled in as we continue moving forward. They might be the characters that help set off the actual narration forward. Maybe they're working with not the protagonists, excuse me, the antagonists, or not the antagonists directly. Maybe they're working with the antagonist group, and eventually they'll have some kind of character arc where they'll start working with the decode, the debug team, and everything like that. Personally, I want to share my opinion about that. I'm personally much more of a. It's actually kind of funny because I was talking about storytelling with a friend last week, and they asked me, "What do I prefer, characterization or narration?" And that was actually what prompted me to maybe go ahead and create this video, because I felt like I kind of had that discussion last Sunday with the last Digimon Liberator video. So to reiterate, I had that discussion just with the audience here last Sunday, and coincidentally enough, I had that conversation again with a friend in person during the week. So it just really got me thinking about that question, characterization versus narration. Personally, I think I'm a fan definitely of both. When it's done really well, a story needs to have both, in my opinion. If a story only has one versus the other, that's going to have an impact on the storytelling. But I do acknowledge that it also depends on the genre. For example, I would argue that slice of life stories oftentimes they do utilize the characterization model more often than the narration model because, and to my understanding, slice of life uh, properties typically tend to focus on, well, a slice of life. They're not going to be saving the world, nor are they going to be saving reality, nor even their city. What they're going to be focused on is like, oh no, I need to make an apple pie, or oh no, I need to go to the local store to pick up some kind of outfit for some kind of get together, some book club meeting that I'm going to be having, right? So, again, with slice of life stories, I could see totally how the characterization is going to be much more at the forefront. But I'd also argue that slice of life stories usually aren't very long. If it's like an anime or a manga, for example, it's not going to be a long running series. If it's a television series or a movie, I can't even think of any movies that's slice of life, but I'm sure they exist. They're out there. But you know, even television shows, it's probably going to be a mini series. Well, actually, I think, excuse me, as a hiccup, I think it shows like Little Perry on the House, I think it was called. I didn't grow up watching that, but I did grow up with my mom watching that in the background. And to my understanding, I believe that show would be a decent example of slice of life. But anywho, my point is that with that genre, the characterization being at the forefront makes sense because usually the storytelling is going to be shorter. It's not going to be a long-running series like, say, The Wheel of Time or Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire or even the TV show Game of Thrones and so forth, right? So yeah, going back to that question, characterization versus narration. I believe a good property will have a combination of both, but when push comes to shove, I think what I personally prefer is narration, just because if the characters suck, but the story is at least interesting, then you have something to engage with. But that's also true for vice versa. But I would argue if the characters are interesting, but the main plot is not very engaging, you're probably going to jump off the boat eventually because characterization can only take you so far. But is that true? Because a good example I have about this is I'm rewatching Supernatural right now, and I would argue that the first 5 seasons when the creator and showrunner Eric Kripke is at the steering wheel, he definitely does characterization and narration being mixed together. There's Monster of the Week episodes, but those Monster of the Week episodes help to flesh out the characterization of Sam and Dean and other minor characters when they are present, such as the demons, Meg, the angels, I already said the demons, but Lucifer, Bobby, Joe, I can't recall Joe's mom at the moment, excuse me, Ellen, excuse me, but Ash and so forth, right? After the first 5 seasons, when the show becomes rather than one overarching plot, so the first 5 seasons is telling one specific story. After that, the rest of the seasons are standalone. Each season is self-contained by its own. A new season after that might reference a previous season, but it's just going to be a reference. It's not going to be a focal part of the show because, again, the first 5 seasons just formatted differently. So the first 5 seasons, again, I would definitely argue is character focused and narrative focused. After that, the story I would again argue switches or transitions over to a character focus. And I think that makes sense because at that point, the audience is going to engage with the show Supernatural because they have an interest with the characters. And so because of that, that's why I'm able to keep on watching the show. Right now, I just started season 9. Yeah, season 9. And I'm able to keep watching it because I like the characters. And sometimes the main story, it's interesting enough that it allows me to continue engaging with the characterization. I could stop. I could stop myself. Well, I already saw the first 5 main seasons, the main story that wanted to be told by the creator. But the reason why I'm still going with this is because, again, I like the characters. I like Sam, I like the Winchesters, and even new characters that get introduced after the first 5 seasons, such as Balthazar, Charlie, Kevin Tran, and so forth. Those are also characters that I really do enjoy. So going back to Digimon Liberator, am I enjoying this story? I'd say yes, I am, but this is where I am going to be honest. If the next set of chapters that release, if they're still focused on character rather than story, I am going to keep on reading it, but I'm not going to lie. I am going to get a little bit, maybe bored, it's not the right word, but a little bit concerned and cautious for the future of the storytelling as we continue moving with Liberator. Just because, again, while I don't mind characterization, I do personally need that overall focus for why the characters are doing what they're doing, for why the characters are acting the way that they are, right? But I'm not too concerned. I know it sounds silly. It's something like Digimon. But for me personally, it really does feel like the storytelling, the writers are starting to amp up and start moving the overall narration forward. So, yeah, I just think that's a really interesting conversation. Again, I think one of the biggest differences between Seekers and Liberator is that Seekers is very much narrative focused. It did have a spotlight on the characters, but every chapter was always doing something where it was making sure that the overall story was moving forward. We get the discovery of Logomon's mysterious past, of the Sons of Chaos, of joining the Sons of Chaos, being a double agent, and so forth, right? Versus Liberator, or only really the main story plot beats that have gone forward is the rogue NPCs, discovering details about the rogue NPCs, Shoto and Ariza joining the debugging team, and then from the novel portion, finding out that someone besides for the debugging team is aware of the Wild Digimon, and they're giving out quests as well to capture these rogue NPCs and these Wild Digimon. And then, of course, with Manikmon, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, or Manikimon, whatever, that new Digimon, I don't know that Digimon's new, but that new, the new for the story from the last chapter of the comic novel. So, so hopefully my discussion makes sense. My question for everyone, I think I already asked this question, or something similar to it in the past, but what's your opinion of Digimon Liberators? Are you enjoying it so far? I know for sure I've asked this in the past, but if you have read Seekers, which one are you enjoying more, Seekers to Liberator? I have to say, even though I did very much enjoy Seekers a lot, I think for right now I am enjoying Liberator more, just because I do feel like the story is a bit more tighter, and especially if it does start apping forward with the narration, I'm definitely gonna feel like the storytelling is just not just tighter, but also objective. It's tight, concise, and it seems to know what it's doing. Unlike unlike Seekers. I personally still do wish that the story did connect together in some way. One of the users who follow along here, they disagreed, and I can see their perspective as well, just because it is quite different, the world of Seekers versus the world of Liberator, and apparently the storytellers are different as well. But we've seen with other with other properties such as Supernatural, where even with the original writer is not present, the story may not be the same, but something can be done. Or like the example that I used with Dragon Age, where each iteration is set in a different not timeline, but sit in a different a setting, sit literally sometimes a different locale, a different nation, a different well, as I already said, city, and so forth, right? So yeah. Thank you so much for listening / watching, everyone. I'm hoping to see you guys again next week when Liberator continues. And I'm pretty sure we're going to continue with the comic portion, and the novel portion will hopefully update soon after that. Have a great day, everyone. Take care, and have a prodigious day.